Resentment is just a sign that you forgot to stand up for your boundaries. One day, this man walked into my bathroom. He dropped it off like, okay, here, you could babysit all of this stress for me. He was living his best life and I was stressed. The old version of me, the one that was centering Ahmed, still felt like my door is open because I'm here to serve him. I'm on some cater to you, Destiny's Child, right? What's love? So a few months ago, I posted a video called How to Decenter Your Man So That You Can Stop Resenting Him. And I honestly had no clue if I would be speaking into the void or if this would be something other people could relate to. I felt really inspired after reading your comments to do a part 2 because a lot has changed. Hello, my love. If you're new here, I am your tough, loving big sis, Rima, and you are now tuned in to another episode of Rima's Rules. Today's conversation is going to be the part 2 of how to decenter your man so that you stop resenting him. I'm going to go through the 3 rules that I've been following since we talked last time on how I am decentering my man in my loving, healthy relationship so that I don't resent him, but more importantly, so that I do not neglect myself. I just look at that like 3 months ago version of me and I'm like, you're so cute. Like you were so scared to just take action, but you did. And here I am literally 3 months later, having made so many exciting changes. So I will update you on what's going on in my life towards the end of this video after we get through these 3 rules. Before we get into rule number 1, I will say the girls loved the tough love. So I am bringing that energy today. If you do not like tough love, and if this is your first time on this channel, this is your warning. Some feelings might get hurt, but just know that I take my own advice. And if you're anything like me, sometimes it needs to sting a little bit. Okay. Rule number 1 is to catch yourself when you are weaponizing your empathy. Remember how in last episode, we talked a lot about how resentment can be a manipulative tool. Well, so can empathy. I watched this video in 2019 that changed my life. And this was right around the time that everybody was talking about being an empath as if it was just this superpower. And I was one of those people because I do identify even to this day as someone who has really extreme, like intuitive emotional powers. Like I can literally read people's mind just off of their body language sometimes. And I used to be like, I'm so cool. I know how you're feeling and how you're feeling. And oh, you're my man. Okay, cool. I'm going to read your mind and I'm going to know exactly what you're going to need at every given moment of the day. And I thought that that made me the best friend, the best daughter, the best sibling, the best partner. Until I watched this video that changed my life. I actually think the creator, Mariam Hasna, took the video down for some reason. But essentially what she talks about is how being an empath is actually often used as a manipulative tool. And it's kind of, I liken it to the savior complex. The way she describes it is that there's no added benefit to feeling what other people are feeling when they're in pain. There's an amazing level of benefit to being intuitive and to being able to understand what they're going through, or maybe not even understand, but like acknowledge and see what they're going through and then support them from a place of maybe understanding, maybe just acknowledgement, maybe just witnessing, right? And being there for them. But there's no added benefit to actually experiencing the pain right alongside with them. And if that sounds confusing to you, I just want you to think of a metaphor that I've been thinking through since I learned this. And it's if somebody was drowning in a really, really crazy current and you were the only person there to help them from drowning, would you just jump in? Okay. Would you jump in and try to brave the current with them so that you could say you drowned with them before you tried to save them? Or would you stand where you are, either throw them a life vest or, put your arm down and pull them out of it or call for more help to be able to pull them out? I think there's a right answer in that question. And the wrong answer is absolutely to jump into the river with the crazy current and, give up your safety to try to save someone else. That doesn't make any sense. And so when you think about being an empath, there's no added benefit to saying that you were there for them because you also put yourself through the pain that they were experiencing just to say that you get it. Like, that's not what that person needs. If somebody is grieving and you are not grieving, you don't need to feign grief in order to help them. No, stand in your own feelings, stand in your own power, empathize, But being an empath takes it a few unnecessary steps further just to say that you feel what they feel. And essentially what I learned from that video that day is that calling yourself an empath, aka absorbing someone else's emotions as your own, absorbing someone else's struggle or pain as your own, and removing the boundary that inherently exists between you and any other human being, you do that so that you can feel better about yourself. Because when you really sit back and think about it, you're not actually helping that person. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because a lot of times when we center our loves, our life partner, the person that we chose to spend the rest of our lives with, what inherently comes along with that, at least for me, is also centering their emotions, centering their stress, centering their discomfort, centering their anger, whatever mood they're in that day. I am so incredibly guilty of this. It is unbelievable. I have only recently, probably literally since posting that video, have been detoxing from that. And I'm telling you, kind of like when you detox and your face breaks out, like, I'm gonna be real with you, it is challenging. We recently were in the car together and he was like having a moment. He was really stressed out. He was really emotional. And my gut reaction after years and years of this learned empath behavior was to literally like cry for him. And I felt it. Like I felt my throat choking up because I love him so much and it pains me to see him in pain. But I checked myself immediately. Like, this is not your moment. He's in pain right now. It might hurt you to see him in pain because you love him, but your pain as a result of his pain is low-key manipulative. Like, it's not helpful. It doesn't add anything. If anything, it just creates two people in pain. I mean, that's probably why they don't allow family members to do surgery on each other. Like, if your heart was failing, would you want your doctor's heart to be broken while they're freaking trying to do open heart surgery on you? No, you would want your doctor to be clear-headed, logical, focused on making you get better. So that's what I did. And the tool that I want to give you is what I've used since watching that video. And it's, I am having my own experience. I literally run that in my head. As I'm listening to him vent to me, as I'm listening to his stress, his emotions, and I feel it kind of like starting to seep into my heart, I tell myself, I am having my own experience. And that creates this beautiful, invisible boundary between he and I, where I'm able to stand firm in what I'm experiencing and be strong for him. I'm not going to sit and break down while he's breaking down, girl. It is not your moment. Like, that is not going to help him. That's not helpful for him. Now, don't get me wrong. If you guys are both going through something together, that's different. But right now, I'm just simply speaking to a moment where he's going through something as an individual and you as his partner are going to support him because, yes, that's your job. A lot of you might hear the word boundary in the example I just gave and feel like, oh, that's so mean. You're setting boundaries while he's crying. Yes, girl, of course I'm setting boundaries while he's crying because I'm not going to jump into the river and drown with him. That's not a loving thing to do. That's low-key a selfish white savior complex thing to do. Like, just so I can say I was in there with him. Why? Why would I put myself in pain just so I can say that I know how he's feeling? Instead, let me just stand firm in the fact that I'm not going through the exact thing he's going through so that I can better support him in the way that he needs. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. I was being so loving. I had the strength and capacity to be so loving and such a listening ear and even ask him what he needs from me so that I can tailor my response to what he needs, not what I feel like doing. I felt like crying. I really felt like crying. And I cried it out later on my own because there was that residual emotion. I'm not perfect. I still absorbed some of his feelings. This specific moment was something he was experiencing that wasn't about me or about the relationship. But this definitely stands, if not even more, when it is about you and when it is about the relationship. So I'll tell you another Ahmed story. We're at a point now, we're in a 2-bedroom apartment where we each have our own bathroom. And we just love that. Like, obviously, we sleep in the same room. Well, not obviously, some people don't. But we sleep in the same room. We plan to keep it that way, inshallah, forever. But we like having our own space. I have my hair products, my makeup products, and I just liked the real estate of having my own bathroom. But one thing I wasn't expecting from it is like, it has created this nice independence in our household where we each love to like listen to a podcast or listen to a YouTube video while we're showering. So when he's in his shower, he gets to do his thing. When I'm in my shower, I get to do my thing, and we kind of leave each other alone. It's like a very therapeutic part of our day. And he knows when my podcast is on, leave me alone. I'm in my zone. I'm showering. It's like my self-care. One day, this man walked into my bathroom while my podcast was on and started venting to me about some things that were stressing him out. And part of it had to do with me. I remember literally being in the shower and repeating the mantra in my head. I'm having my own experience. I'm having my own experience. I'm having my own experience. But what I didn't do was turn him away. Right? Because the old version of me, the one that was centering Ahmed, still felt like I should have an open door policy, literally and figuratively. Anytime he wants to bring something to me, anytime he wants to come to me, my door is open because I'm here to serve him. I love him. I'm on some cater to you, Destiny's Child. Right? And I remember he just vomited all this stress and anxiety onto me as I was in the shower, and I didn't really respond. But then like he walked out. It wasn't like an angry exchange. It was like a stressed venting exchange, right? He kind of like finished what he had to say, and I was like, okay, we'll talk later. And then he walked out of the bathroom. And when I finished showering and I walked back into the living room, he was in a great old mood. I was in a mood, and what had just happened is he like transmuted his stress onto me very unintentionally. I know he would never do that on purpose, but subconsciously probably realized that's what he was doing. Distributed all his stress onto me. He dropped it off like, okay, here, you could babysit all of this stress for me. I walked out. He was living his best life and I was stressed. And this is what I mean when I say that you need to decenter that man, that good man, that loving man, so that you don't resent him. Because in that moment, I felt resentment towards him. But because I take my own advice, and anytime I feel resentment, I snap back and I remember resentment is just a sign that you forgot to stand up for your boundaries. You cannot be mad at him for something like that. I literally could have told him, boo, I love you. I'm showering. I'm listening to my podcast. This is not the time. I just didn't do that. So I had to set the boundary retroactively, but it didn't solve the fact that I felt stressed as after that shower, usually something that decompresses me. And I'm always like, I have such happy feelings walking out of my little self-care shower YouTube sessions. But that moment became like a stressful moment for me because I chose to allow him to have this open door policy, and I chose to absorb his stress. Notice how self-accountable I'm being. Did he also make a choice to infringe on my space? Yes, absolutely, for sure. But I definitely could have told him to turn back around and he would have done it. And 10 minutes later, he totally would have understood. But even if you're with someone who wouldn't have understood, that's still fine too. We'll get to that. But my point is that the old version of me, the unhealed version of me, would feel the need to do this. And this has ruined a lot of my relationships. Would feel the need to be a listening freaking ear, even when I did not have the capacity. One of my ex-best friends called me to Lebanon in the same week that I was burying my dad to ask me for relationship advice. I was mad at her about this for the longest time, but the honest version of myself realized I should have checked her on that phone, or better yet, not even picked up the phone during a time where I needed to be around my family and not on some like toxic relationship bullshit, right? That's not her fault. Was it a bad judgment on her part? For sure. Absolutely. But I made the decision to pick up the phone and sit and listen and even give her advice like an idiot. That was my choice. I did that because subconsciously I felt like it makes me a good person to go through the trenches with people when they're dealing with something. And this is a pattern that I'm absolutely putting an end to in my relationship because I noticed myself start to do it in these first few years of being with him. And I'm now changing that. And of course, it has felt very uncomfortable. Like there's literally moments where I'm just like, this feels so weird. Like I just want to jump in and drown with him. But I now have learned that when I'm better, and when I feel good, and when I feel happy, and when I feel supported, we're both better. And that's on Happy Wife, Happy Life. Rule number 2, please, my love, do not replace hyper independence with hyper dependence. I wish someone sat my ass down before Ahmed and I moved in together and drilled this into my head. I want to tell you a little bit about my parents and my dynamic specifically with my dad growing up. I know in the last video, I told you all about my amazing mom. And actually the other day, she sent in the WhatsApp group about how she had a dream about my dad. And my dad passed away in 2017. And we all frequently dream about him. He visits us here and there in our dreams. And her reflection after having this beautiful dream about him was his level of support, his ability to be so dependable made us, or in this case her, feel so confident being independent. And that's such a deep thing. Like, I had to read it like 5 times, but when I read it, I'm like, wait, no, that's actually exactly how he made me feel too. I was so proud of being so independent. Like, I was that girl who genuinely had fun being single. Like, I loved being alone. I was a very independent person in so many ways. But when I really, really, really look back on it, I realized I was very dependent on my dad, but it was kind of like he was in the background, and I knew that if I were to fall, it's kind of like when you're lifting weights and someone is spotting you. This is the metaphor that comes to mind. You're lifting the weights, you're doing it all on your own. They're not attached to you. You're literally doing it all by yourself. But in the case that you're about to bust your ass, they are right there to spot you and catch the weight and catch you before you fall or kill yourself, right? There was literally one time where I was so scared. I was driving my brother to the airport, and it was like winter in Michigan. And the car kept like slipping. So I got to the airport trying to be calm, dropped my brother off, and then immediately called my dad, who was in Lebanon. Okay, mind you, I'm literally calling someone in a 7-hour time difference. And before I could even get like one word out, like I tried to be strong on the phone, like, hi, Baba. And then he knew I was crying. As soon as I said hi, he's like, what's wrong? What happened? And I was like, I'm scared to drive back home. I'm at the airport and I'm just scared the car was slipping, and I'm okay and everyone's okay, but I don't want to drive back. Before I could finish my sentence, like, okay, let me call my brother. Hangs up the phone, calls my uncle, who then calls my uncle, who was in Michigan too, who then tells him that my cousins, this is the most Arab story ever in life, my cousins are actually arriving from Lebanon today, so one of my cousins can just drive me home and his parents can go in a different car. And that's exactly what happened. And like, the problem was solved. To have someone as a father who I could call to Lebanon, like, mind you, I had family in the States, but I decided to call my dad in Lebanon because I knew he would solve it faster than any person around me. Like, that is the person that I had in my life. I will literally cry because I didn't realize, ew, not ugly crying. I didn't realize any of this stuff until the past few months of like why I was centering my husband. And actually, my therapist checked my ass. Like, see how we do this tough love thing? My therapist is a tough lover, and that's why I love her so much, because she checked me. And she literally said to me, like, there's so many moments where I'm like expecting Ahmed to fill in for my dad. And that is just crazy to me, because literally right after my dad passed away, I went on like a year-long hiatus from dating. I was like, I'm not talking to any man, because I was introspective enough and self-aware enough at that time to understand that I would be trying to fill a void. But very silly of me to think that a year hiatus was long enough for me to heal and fix my grief or whatever. And so by the time Ahmed and I started talking, we started talking in 2020. Oh, damn. By the time Ahmed and I started talking, it was only 3 years after my dad passed. I just realized that. That's crazy. It wasn't even 3 years after my dad passed. And I think I thought that I had just cleaned my slate and that I would not be trying to fill any type of void. Now that it's a little over 7 years since my dad passed away, I can honestly say that like no one will ever fill that void. Nobody will ever give me the sense of safety that my dad gave me. And because I had that safety net, that person spotting me, I was able to be so hyper independent. I really hope this ends up making sense to you, because it's just now coming together for me. So when I got with Ahmed, I kind of felt like I just wanted to do the trust fall and be done with it. I'm like, okay, cool. We got someone that we trust, which he is very trustworthy, and I picked the right one. But I think that I subconsciously missed the feeling of being spotted. And so I just kind of delegated that to him indirectly. And I wasn't aware of that. But there were little things that changed since we moved in together that when I look back on them now, I'm like, you went from boss bitch to baby and you thought it was cute because of all this like princess treatment, and my brain turns off when I'm with my husband, and all these things that I really do agree with and I really love. But I think I took it to a whole nother extreme where I started to lose my sense of individuality and my sense of independence. And the gag is that because I'm with someone who makes me feel safe it took me this long to realize that it's still not healthy. Just because he can spot me, just because I can lean on him and he's dependable, does not mean that that's sustainable all the time, 110% of the time. Does not mean that that's healthy. Does not mean that independence isn't part of my identity. That doesn't mean that you won't lose parts of yourself in the process of just fully depending on someone else emotionally. So I'll give you a kind of embarrassing example. I've been in LA for over 3 years. Yesterday was the first freaking day since I moved here that I drove a car here by myself. You guys, let me just run that back. I've been in LA for over 3 years. I am 31 years old. Yesterday was the first day that I drove a car in LA by myself. Anyone who grew up with me would have their mouths dropped to the floor right now because I was the girl who was whipping her car around everywhere in Michigan. Like, I was picking people up, dropping them off, volunteering to drive for road trips. I drove back and forth from U of M, where I went to school, for literally like 6, 7, even like 8 years, because I went there for undergrad and I also went there for my MBA. And I was always driving back and forth 45 minutes. You just hop on 94 and just take it all the way down, right? And I love to drive. I drove at night. I drove in the morning. I drove I just really love to drive, and my drives were like my sanctuary. I would play my podcast or play my music, and I would just have such a time, especially when I was by myself. Like, those were my therapy sessions. After my dad died, when I was in Michigan, I would drive and just bawl my eyes out on 94. I've left a lot of emotions on that freeway. I would bawl my eyes out, and then literally within seconds, the right song would come on and I would just be laughing and singing and having this little music video in my car. I kid you not, like, that was the vibe. The reason that I finally started driving, this is all kind of connected, is because I finally also hired a trainer, which is something I've been wanting to do. In the last video, I talked to you about how Ahmed and I used to work out together all the time. And one of the first little things that I started doing to decenter him a few months ago in that first video was going to the gym by myself. Well, now I've taken it up like 10 levels, and I actually hired a personal trainer for me. I still go to the local gym, but I also do 2 times a week at my trainer's gym, which is like a 30-minute drive. So as soon as I realized, okay, I'm hiring this trainer, I'm paying a lot of money every month, this is a really important investment for me, I was like, okay, I need to get a car. Like, I really need to suck it up. We need to have a second car, and I need to start driving. And so literally for the past few weeks, he's been like kind of accompanying me while I learn how to drive in LA, because it's genuinely a different beast. And plus we got a Tesla, and so the regenerative braking is just a little bit of a mind F the first few times. But yesterday was the first time I drove there and back all by myself. I'm going to do it again tomorrow. And as silly as it seems, like, it just felt like me again. I felt like myself again. And I'll give you some more updates on some things that are changing since the last video. But this one is so important because I was dependent on him to drive anywhere. He was my ride. And then in the times where he couldn't, or if he was out of town, I would take an Uber. Like, that was how seriously dependent on him I was. And yesterday, literally on my drive home, I busted out crying again in the car. Not because I was sad about anything, but because I genuinely missed myself. Like, I missed how it felt to be in my own little encapsulated space and just do something that is just about me, is just for me. I woke up, got in this car that is mine, and drove to my personal training session, and then got back in my car and played my playlist and just felt like myself again. And the craziest part is he is so excited for me. Like, he would have wanted me to do this from day one. There is genuinely nobody to blame in this situation but me. I decided to go from being a hyper independent baddie to literally being so hyper dependent on him. And there are some moments, I'm not gonna lie, where I love that. I love that when we leave the house together, if he's driving, I don't know where the hell we're going and I don't care. I know he ain't gonna kidnap me. When we're traveling, oh my God, he's like my own personal travel agent, and I love that. I don't bother calling Delta Airlines to book anything, to find, like, I just don't wanna have anything to do with that because it brings me so much relief and it makes me feel so loved and taken care of and supported, because my love language is acts of service. So I want to leave room for that, right? But I also don't want to get rid of my independence in such a way where I'm not an individual anymore. It's really cringe for me to be saying this because I can't believe that I elected that. Like for the past few years, because he is so trustworthy, I just chose hyper dependence. And that's just not me. And I felt like I lost myself. And that is just crazy. And I'm so proud, as I'm saying this out loud, of some of the choices that I've been making over the past few months. Not to be like Kylie, but I'm feeling like myself again, like for real, for real, for real. And it just makes me so happy. Which brings me to rule number 3. The older you get, the more your inner child needs you to show up for her. One of the things I adore about Ahmed is that his inner child is so live and well. If you order this man a pizza, I promise you, you will literally feel like you know exactly how he used to act when he was 10 years old. I think for the longest time, especially when I was single, the same could be said about me, not for pizza, but like for music, okay? Like I loved listening to music. I just loved it. I had like a very above average passion, and I still do, for music. I wasn't out here trying to be like an artist or anything like that. I never had that desire, but I love a good R&B song, and I love to know all the lyrics, and I love to be put on new music. My little sister is Gen Z, so she's way cooler than me, and she sends me all these songs. I also love to be creative. Ever since I was a little girl, I had a pen or pencil or something in my hand. I was always writing. I was always drawing. And I mean, it's no surprise that we're here together right now because I have always been creating in some shape or form. I will say for the past few months, something has very much so changed in how I'm creating, where I'm doing it for the fun of it. Whereas in the past few years, it kind of stopped being about the fun and it started being about the outcome. And that drained me because my inner child would spend hours creating something to show literally nobody. Like I wasn't trying to put it out there. I might have been trying to share a moment with me and a friend or me and a family member, but I love to create things. I don't know if you guys remember, but like we used to burn CDs back in the 90s and 2000s because we didn't have all this stuff, right? And one of my passions in high school was to be the friend that would burn you a mixtape of all my favorite songs. And then the best part was to have all these different color Sharpies and design the mixtape. Like I would design it with something emotional or some sort of poetic message or just like whatever felt symbolic between me and my friend. And I would give that to my friend. Like that was my favorite thing to do. Another thing that I was obsessed with is taking like old shoeboxes and turning them into memory boxes, but then literally designing the heck out of that box. And it was this thing that I got to look at every time I was in my closet. Anytime I felt nostalgic, I would pull out my memory box and just admire the way that I had designed it, usually with song lyrics or whatever I was like into at that time. If you've been tuning in to my In Those Jeans series, you might have peeped. That's the kind of vibe I'm going for. Like I'm healing that 90s, 2000s version of me because I miss that girl. I miss her. And I feel like my mission every day is to show up for her. And even like if you've been keeping up with that challenge, the whole mission behind fitting into that pair of jeans is all about healing the younger version of me. And I haven't felt this connected to her in so long. I just missed her so much. And I know she's just been waiting on me to re-engage her and have her be an active part of my life. And you might be wondering like, okay, what happened to her, girl? Why are you neglecting her? Honestly, I don't know. She got very quiet when I got with him. And normally if somebody told me that, that would be a major red flag. Like I would be like, run. But the crazy part is like, it's not a sense of I don't feel safe around him. Like I feel so safe around him. I will say if your inner child doesn't feel safe around who you're dating or who you're with, you should run. I just need to like interrupt this programming to let you know that. My inner child feels very safe with him, especially because his is so live and well and he would never be judgmental about that. But it was, again, kind of like the bathroom thing. It was my doing. I think I just didn't create space for her. I just focused so much on him. And then whatever was left over of that was on me and my affairs that there was just genuinely no room for her. So I've completely flipped the switch on that in the past few months. I don't even want to say I did this super consciously, but as I'm saying it right now, I have prioritized my inner child's needs and then my needs and then his needs. It's crazy. Like she comes first and then my job comes second and all that other stuff. And then his like taking care of him comes third. But the craziest part is I have never taken care of him as well as I am right now. And I want you to hear that. I have never taken care of him as consistently and as effectively and as attentively as I have over the past 3 months. And if he was here right now, he would be like, retweet, absolutely. Like, whatever you're doing, I don't care what you want to call it, decentering, recentering, whatever, keep doing it, because he's reaping the benefits of me taking care of me. And so many of you hear things like decenter men or decenter your man, and you might get triggered, or even boundaries with you and your man. And you might be like, no, I don't want that type of relationship. I'm here to tell you that the relationship that Ahmed and I have now that I've decentered him is 10 times stronger and more loving and more caring and more nurturing on both ends than the one that I had 6 months ago, where I was centering him night and day. I don't know. There's no math to make it math. It's like one of my favorite sayings, which is the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And essentially what that means is when you are investing your energy into the right places, 2 plus 2 is not 4. 2 plus 2 could be 10 if you're bringing the right things together. And I think when I'm focusing on my inner child and spending energy and time on her, I open up so much. My capacity opens up so much. And so what might have felt like the same 24 hours in the day now feels like I have so much energy to give this person, and it wasn't there before. But because I'm feeding myself and I'm giving myself what I need, I have like double the energy for myself and for him. And so he gets to literally reap the benefits of me taking care of myself. And I just love that. I love that for us. I love it. And as I'm saying this out loud, I'm realizing that's why being an empath sucks. Choosing to be an empath when someone's in pain sucks. It's just a shitty use of energy. It's a very inefficient use of your energy and time and emotion, because you drain all your energy on feeling this emotion instead of utilizing the emotional capacity that you have to strictly support that person. You're draining your battery on feeling bad for that person instead of keeping your battery strong so that you can uplift them and add strength to them and give them what they truly need. And you shouldn't have to deplete yourself to do that. I want to tell you about my inner child and then tell you what I've been doing to take care of her. The 10-year-old version of me, who is still alive and well. She loves music, she loves sports, and she loves to be competitive. She's low-key insecure about dancing, so she wants to feel more confident in her body and wants to feel like she can dance. She likes the idea of singing, even though she'd never want to take it anywhere, but she just loves the idea of using her voice. She used to be a little reporter in 5th grade and get in front of the camera and report to her 5th grade class every Friday about the news that were going on in the school. Like, that was 10-year-old Rima, and that's who I've been engaging with. So in addition to hiring my own personal trainer and just kind of scratching that competitive itch that I've always had, and in addition to driving and having my alone time and listening to music and just feeling independent. So this is going to be so crazy to say out loud, but I just spontaneously decided to hire a singing coach for fun. I have my consultation with her tomorrow. She sounds so cool, you guys. Like, she literally talks about, like, even if you just want to get better at singing in the shower, it doesn't matter. The whole point is for me to empower you in your voice. And then she started talking about trauma and feeling shame around using your voice. And I'm like, she sold me on that. She sold me. I don't know where it'll go. I don't know if I'm about to be on here singing. I don't really think I will. But the whole point is like to just have fun. It's kind of like that version of me that was making these memory boxes. It's like, I don't need to be out here trying to sing for anyone on Spotify, but I can have fun creating and just using the gifts that God gave me and just exploring different ways of doing that. And so in addition to that, I also have a dancing lesson on Monday. I don't know if I'm going to record any of these, you guys. Like, I'm about to get red right now because honestly, I've always gotten away at the club and, whatever, because I'm cute. Okay, I could just pretend I know how to dance, but for real, I don't really know how to dance. Like, I get a little bit shy. I just feel awkward. I don't feel super comfortable dancing. And so I just literally want to be able to go out in Lebanon or, go to a wedding or whatever and just feel like I can be present and have fun and feel good in my body. I think my In Those Jeans challenge kind of has inspired me to feel good in my body. And I realized that one of the most healing ways to do that is to move, not just through working out, but but like move and dance and feel good and just stop being so rigid all the time and just loosen up. So I'm very, very, very excited to see how that goes. If I don't feel so awkward about it, I might record a little bit of it and show you guys, but we'll see. I'm just so proud of myself, but I genuinely did not expect to have this many updates for you guys in only 3 months. And all of this came from me literally saying something so simple, which is that I deserve to be the main character in my own story. And that's honestly what I want to leave you with. If saying the words, I want to decenter my man, feels weird for you, if you feel guilty about it, if you feel any shame, if you feel that way, even 1%, then there's a really, really high chance that you've been neglecting yourself. And I just want to give you the courage to just do one thing today that is only for you, that feels a little uncomfortable. Like, I feel very uncomfortable about this dance thing that I have on Monday. I have felt very uncomfortable going to every single training session, but I keep going back. It has felt very uncomfortable to get in the car and drive. It's not even just about the act of doing it. It's not the act of lifting the weights. It's about driving to this gym by myself and working with a trainer. Just the audacity to do something that is strictly for me and nobody else has felt very uncomfortable. And if that is how you feel, that is a sure sign that you've been neglecting yourself. I want you to try it. I have really taken a leap of faith. Some of this stuff doesn't make sense to my old self. My old self was someone where there needed to be some return on my investment, even if it wasn't about money. Like, it needed to justify something. There needed to be a clear outcome that I was looking for. Like I said, even when I was creating, like, there needed to be an expectation of, here's the numbers that this will get me if I do it this way. And everything was so freaking calculated. I feel like I treated my life and my freaking relationship like a business. And if I wanted to do something for myself, it needed to make sense in the bigger picture of time and energy being put in other places. But that's why I wanted to tell you that if you focus on yourself, the whole, whether it's your household, yourself, your relationship, it can be greater than the sum of its parts. 2 + 2 can equal 10 for you if you choose to focus on yourself. Again, I don't know why. The math isn't going to necessarily math to my old self, but all I know is like, these are the results and this is how I'm feeling. And if you just watch my old video and look at my energy and watch this video and look at my energy, you'll see it. You'll see it. Like, you'll literally see that I have more energy. I'm more expansive. And I think it's just going to keep growing and growing the more that I decide that choosing me doesn't need to accomplish something else. That's it. That's the tweet. That's it. It doesn't need to be justified. I don't need a pitch deck. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. But I just want you to do one thing, just one, today for yourself that makes you a little bit uncomfortable. And then just repeat that with random things. They don't have to make sense. When I was booking my dance girl, it was literally on the airplane ride home. When I was booking my singing coach, it was literally in bed right before I fell asleep. Like, these were just spontaneous thoughts that came across, my desk in my head and just felt good. And I'm like, honestly, why not? And I want to continue to follow that. Honestly, why not? Because if I get really spiritual, I don't think these things are random. I think that my inner child is kind of, bringing things to my attention or sliding things across my figurative desk because she knows better than I do what is going to make me happy. What started off as a video, it's so ironic, about decentering my man really just became a video about me and just centering myself. And if you notice in the last video, a lot of the conversation and discourse was around the relationship. Whereas in this video, I want to say 70% of the conversation is about me and what has made me happier, and therefore will obviously impact a healthy relationship in a positive way. I think that little shift in tone from the first episode to this one is so beautifully symbolic. It makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing for me and for my relationship. I really hope this gives you the courage and the tools to do this for yourself. I would love to hear from you. Tell me some stories. What are you trying? What are you changing? What mindset shifts has this led to? And as always, I'm not going to ask you to like or subscribe, but what I will say is, if you enjoyed this video, bring a friend with you next time. I love you so much, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.